Hey, this is Kodi Zene, and this is episode 10 in the Making Monochrome series. Today we are covering our third shoot day in our production, which is one of the doozies. This was on April 24th, 2017, and all one, well, I say one location, but one area instead of splitting it up like we had before. But our call time was 7 a.m. that morning, and we filmed till about 4 in the afternoon. This was probably one of the days I was the most excited for. So what we did, we had our big kind of warehouse showdown towards the end of the movie, and then we had the bus scene, which involves numerous extras out on the street, in public. So yeah, it was quite a lot of big feats for that shoot day. But the warehouse location, the company I worked for at the time, the hospital system, they owned these group of warehouses, and whenever like a syringe or gauze or something has an expiration date, whenever that expires for what the US says is expired, doesn't necessarily mean that it's of no longer use or won't work, right? So these warehouses store expired medical items, and that ranges from, like I said, gauze to gurneys or light stands, just about anything, you name it. And, originally in the script, this scene was supposed to be in like a thrift store, department store or something, because there's a lot of like ducking down behind stuff and hiding and kind of weaving in and out in the dark lit area. And as pre-production went on, and I was kind of nailing down locations for the rest of the scenes, we were gracious enough that this particular nonprofit donated some of the medical stuff. So some of the hospital gowns and gauze and stuff that we needed for props and set dressing, they they have surplus, but they gave us what we needed for the most part. So when I went to go pick it up, I walk in and I'm looking in this warehouse and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. And, long story short, they let us film there. And so it was a huge, huge day for that, just lighting the warehouse, the kind of the way we wanted it, and planning out the shots with, just because it was so big and there was so much stuff, just kind of blocking the shots that way. And then, the big showdown there with the fight and the stunts involved with that, it was a lot of fun. I think everyone had a blast, even Josh, who took a beating. But yeah, there was so many ideas and resources we could use and hide behind and use for that. And yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. And so as we're getting into that shot, just on the other side of the wall, out on the street there next to the warehouse, we are getting our extras to show up, because we're about to switch gears and leave the warehouse, and we're going to start filming the bus scene. And so at the end of the movie, the people of the city are trying to evacuate, and there's these buses that are chartering people out of the city, out of a safe distance from these blasts and stuff. And so it was our first time dealing with, other than maybe 3 to 4 actors, we had 20 more. I think we probably had over 30 that day at the highest peak. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very different. We all met in the garage of the warehouse, kind of did a quick rundown, and I basically told them 4 different things. You're going to be this type of person, you're going to be this one, and this one, and this one, and then gave them starting points and said, city's about to go down, and this is what I want you to do. And so The bus actually that we used was, again, this hospital system coming through. They use these buses to charter people around the campus that's really large, and we got to use one of these buses because I really wanted those, accordion doors that open up, because I need that to shut and really just be definite, like it's closed, it's done, as the people are trying to, force their way on. And yeah, they let us use it, and we got to move this vehicle, so that was really cool. It was very different, having the extras and actors on the street and then having them on the bus trying to communicate. I did not have a megaphone, so sometimes it was hard to get the cut to cut, and it's still one of my favorite scenes, I think, and to watch it, I think that's the one scene that, because as we went along, I would do the edit in between shoot days. So, I didn't wait till we were done shooting everything and then start editing. I would just edit scenes, and I really wanted to edit the warehouse and then the bus scene just because, of what it is. And so I edited that one early on. And yeah, it's one of the scenes that it's like ingrained in my head of, like, I've had dreams about it, just the way it went down, and just how well our extras brought it, just the looks on their faces, just the desperation and trying to get, for their survival, get on this bus, and those that are turned away and those who are on the bus, just, yeah, it was amazing. With the bus, we had to, obviously we couldn't pay to wrap it or anything, but we had to cover up the branding. That was part of the deal to use the bus. And so with Tempest Studios, our printing company, we can print car magnets. So the our contact there at the transportation department that had the buses, he'd send me pictures and mark up. He'd measure, the words and the logo, how big they were, so I knew how big to print cover-ups, basically. And so we got those, put some fun Easter eggs in there that I don't think you can actually see it in the film, but like I had our daughter's names and birth dates in there for, instead of the US dot, like each vehicle has their own identification number. Then we got to just stick them on the side of the bus, and the sizing was off, but we made it work. And yeah, that way, we got to use the bus and not have to worry about taking out a logo and post and whatnot. So yeah, it was crazy. The thing for me on that day, though, is we did not have a permit to film. Technically, well, I don't know. Technically, we probably should have had one. I don't know. It depends. But we were on a city street, but we were in the property area of the warehouse, which we had permission to film. We're using, the rental vehicle. But the fact that I had extras running across the street in all different directions, acting terrified, and then banging on a vehicle, screaming, and then the vehicle drives off, constantly if you watch or look at the photos, like the BTS video and photos, I'm constantly like looking down the street, just waiting for, a cop car to come and like break it up. And there's one point where, it just looks like the apocalypse. People are just trying to get on this bus, and it's like a mayhem. And I look, and sure enough, a cop car drives down, and it ended up being one of our contacts. Like, he was just driving through to make sure everything was okay. So we lucked out, I think, that day, but I was just terrified that they were gonna cease production, and we had all the extras and everything there, and I didn't, want to let them down, but it worked out. I think it turned out amazing. It's one of my favorite, and yeah, it was a huge win. It was major rushed, again, just multiple angles, multiple shots. It was a big undertaking for a small crew to manage, that amount of people, but the actors were so professional, and they really brought it. I think when people watch it, that moment in the film where that's the point where you get a sense of just how messed up things have become and where they're headed. And I think that's why it messes with my head so much, because the visuals of it have happened in our history, just the segregation of allowing someone on a bus or telling them where they sit. So I think that's what it is about that scene and how it went down. But that scene too, what Ryan did in the cage playing the brother, that laugh and the shaking and the bars just being trapped in there was pretty haunting as well. We had a lot of fun in that one, a lot of fun in the warehouse. So yeah, that wrapped, shoot day 3. It was a big one. It was really exciting to have that. It was probably one of the hardest ones, just because of the amount of shots and the length of the warehouse scene and the logistics of the bus. So I was really glad to have that one wrapped up under the belt, and really excited to start editing that together and seeing, kind of how it would look there at the end. So yeah, we just kept checking them off, crossing them off.